Would you like to take your watercolour to the next level? Hi, I'm Jerry, and today we're painting a beautiful square in Old Valencia. It's a place full of light, character, and those lovely sun-washed buildings that are perfect for loose, atmospheric work. Now, this little square is surrounded by warm stone facades. There's the arched windows and those classic Spanish balconies. Then there's a cafe spilling out onto the pavement, people gathered under the awnings, and a real sense of life moving gently through the space. It's the kind of scene that invites you in before you've even picked up your brush. Now, composition wise, it's a gift. Strong shapes, clear value patterns, and sunlight cutting across the square to give you a natural contrast. The buildings frame the scene beautifully, and the figures add scale and energy without overwhelming the painting. It's a perfect subject for practicing simplification, atmosphere, and you can use your confident brushwork. If you'd like to paint along, the outline drawing for the scene is available on my website so that you can jump straight into the fun part. Now, the paper I'm using is Saunders Waterford, £140 rough, and taped to a board that's propped up with a piece of timber behind it, so it's at a very slight angle to let the water and the paint run down. And I'm using primarily Winsor & Newton paints, and I'll let you know the brushes as we go. The drawing's a little bit more detailed than I normally do, but I think that'll be more helpful for those of you that are going to have a go at drawing this. We're starting off with the small sky area first. Using a number 12 Escoda, Perla. I'll be using this for quite a bit of the drawing. I have a flat sponge on the desk, and I dip in the water, go onto the sponge to take the paint out, and can change colour. I can do this up to a point. Sometimes the brush does get too dirty and have to wash it out completely or use another brush. Now I'm using cobalt blue, French ultramarine. Nice flat wash. This will be a nice clear blue Mediterranean sky. Put in quite quickly, then just leave it. Don't worry about going over the tape. Cleaning the brush out again. Using the same brush. And I'm using a little bit of white and a colour called Jaune Brilliant, which is raw sienna and white. I like to get it ready mixed. Just makes it easier for me to get the right consistency faster. Lots of water with this. I'm really just putting this on to make these walls look a bit weathered. Same brush. Just putting it on quite quick, avoiding these canopies at the bottom, keeping them white. They're going to be very much a feature, but going all over the windows, covering all these wall areas. This itself showing a bit of colour now, but will dry out even lighter. Just a hint of a cream colour when it dries out. Quite a lot of different things to paint with this particular drawing, with the people, the buildings, windows. Lots of shadows going on as well, so there'll be quite a lot of dark areas. Lights and darks, just as I like it. Just bringing this wash over everywhere. Doing this building in the distance. A little bit stronger mixture for this one. As you can see, just putting it on quite fast and leaving it. Just avoiding the canopy. Or the awnings, I think they're called. Going over the front of the calf to keep this, keep the diners in the shade. Didn't have to worry too much about the one on the left because that's going to be in red, so that'll cover that. But the others I want just left pure white. Mixing the two colours together, that's the sky colour and the other one that I had, just to do a quick wash over the pavement, over the pavement area. As you can see, I've covered more or less everything quite quickly and using the same brush. These have a very nice point, which I like about them. You'll see when I'm putting in the darks now. This is Payne's Grey and Sepia mixed together. Quite a thick mixture, not much water in this one. Going around doing the shade areas first wash. Nice thick mixture. Going to be using a couple of washes to cover these areas. Want these to be nice and dark, be a feature, really show off them awnings. This is another area that's going to be in real deep shade. Just working my way around the figure there and then bringing that down to where the chairs are, tops of the chairs and people sitting there. Moving over to the area on the left there where the shade is. This is going to be using a little bit more sepia in this. Slightly different coloured mixture. Would like to see my shade areas vary in colour just a little bit, and that will be the same. Working quite carefully. It's good to have this fine point on the brush. Makes it easier to work around these figures and chairs and things. Now for the area over the left hand side, they're using just some of that blue sky mixture with a bit of water in it, just to make the shade lighter there. As you can see, I've covered quite a lot of the painting now already. Just putting in that little bit of blue sky at the top of the buildings there. And this is light red, nice rich colour. Mixing that with raw sienna. I'll be putting in the colour of the distant roof. Everything's dried now. Doing it wider than it needs to be, because I'm going to be putting a shadow in there in a little while. Mixing those two darks again, sepia, Payne's grey. Now using the same brush, going to be starting to do the windows, working from the top down, so I'm not working over wet paint if I can help it. Very dark colour this, not much water, quite thick. See the building coming to life now that these darks are put in. Still got a bit of work to do on them with the surrounds. Just wait for this first wash to dry. You can see the need for accuracy in the drawing here. Even though the paintings are fairly loose, it would really show if things were out of sync. Now I'm going to be using a mixture of cerulean blue and just a little bit of Payne's grey for these distant windows. I want to make them slightly different colour, make it more interesting. doing the windows quite earlier on because there's a lot of work to do around them, and I want it to be the first wash to be dry. And bringing in these closer windows with a slightly more watery wash, making them more of a lighter grey colour than the others. And then putting in some of the shadows as well now. This little archway here is going to really accentuate the awning there, the white awning. Start bringing that forward. Sepia, Payne's grey. Doing this stonework above the awnings. Just doing an impression of Banshee stonework. Now I'm going to vary the stonework above the canopy at the front, which is going to be a red canopy, using some raw sienna with the dark mixture, Payne's grey. Make this a little bit richer, a little bit warmer. That's where the sun's hitting. Just put a bit of light on these windows as well. They too are going to be in the sunlight, so you can see a little bit of colour from them. Using a slightly smaller Escoda Perla here, size 8. All I'm doing here is just putting in a few lines, giving an impression of what's really an ornate balcony. But I'm just suggesting a few lines here. When you're doing areas like that, you just got to be confident that when it dries, you're looking at it, it's going to be giving the appearance of a stone balcony, even though you've just done a few lines. That's the beauty of this impressionism. You're just giving an impression, letting people, when they look at it, work it out for themselves what it's meant to be. Using this light grey colour to do the window reveals. These will really sink back into the wall now. And the same thing with these front windows. Put some marks and lines in, give the impression balconies there too. And I'm going around what would be an umbrella awning in the distance there with a bit of colour. And some real dark here for this very small portion of a building on the left, which is really going to bring the eye into the painting when this dries. Nice deep blue French ultramarine with this Payne's grey sepia mixture, nice and dark. Using this for the deep shade of the eaves on this building in the distance. Want that blueness to show, which will be really deep directly underneath the roof, terracotta roof. It'll be really deep there, and then as it comes further down, it'll be lighter. So I'm going to achieve that effect by just putting a little bit of water with the mixture. The shadow wouldn't be so intense there. Looks a bit strong, but it will be drying darker, lighter. You can see it's all about building up the shapes with this painting. Just what I do this gentleman who's walking towards a restaurant. Just bring them in a deep blue colour. And just an impression of the roof tiles, just a few dots, a few lines, and then doing the eaves on this closer building, which would be in shadow. And these are the ornate stone supports for the eaves on the right hand side. Just going around this front wall now, around the windows. Put a few dots and lines on these walls, trying to age them a little bit, give the impression of the some of the blocks being just a little bit uneven, make it a little bit weathered rather than just a wash of that colour, nothing else. Bringing that round the corner to these windows on the side, with these rather nice surrounds they've got on them, arch surrounds, all very ornate, very old. Quite a lot of concentration on a painting like this. Lots of small details that are quite important. And at the back of the painting, the other side of the awning, is a couple of lampposts with lights, metal posts. Now this is neutral tint with this dark mixture. I've actually just splashed a little bit there, so I'll wipe that off. Gives me a real deep black colour. Don't like using black. I think it's too lifeless. Much rather mix these with it. Gives hints of other colours, blue. It's like a blue tint to it. And then doing this other area under the awning, which is really dark. Carefully going around these figures again and chairs. This is going to look really effective when it's dry. This is the part of the painting I really like to try and get right, these shadow areas. Now what I do with these areas like this is I'll go in with the dark, but not the whole area, so that when it dries it'll look like some doors and windows in the shade. And then straight onto these couple of figures on the left hand side. They're not too worried about these, as long as the proportions look right. They're actually all going to be in shade. Popping these legs on and then doing the starting on the furniture in these restaurants. And starting on the front awning as well. Just doing the front of that. It's actually going to be red when I start on the main part. And just popping in another wash on that building on the left there, just darken that right up. Just put a little bit of a dark colour in there on that wall. That's a nice bit of dark against light there with the awning, with the white awning, making that really stand out. And in the shadow there, putting a little bit of some warm colour. Don't want it just to be totally dark in there like black. And there's these chairs, lots of chairs. I've actually drawn the cafes as being virtually empty rather than all the people in them. Just put a few people walking. Just vary the colours on these chairs as they would be with different lights shining on them, even though they're all the same coloured chairs. There's just a little bit of greenery on the wall of this restaurant in the centre. So sap green. Just adds a bit of interest, draws the eye to the building as well. Putting in a red wash on this lady on the left hand side. Looks a bit bright, but this will be covered in deep shadow. Now I'm using what's called a dagger brush here, 1/4 inch dagger brush, Jackson's own make. Just leaves a few chinks of white. You can see how effective this red colour is with the surrounding whites. Just touching here and there, little just impressions of small amounts of shade, imperfections on things. Now I'm switched to a rigger brush now. Has long bristles and a fine point. Ideal for doing some of the fine work here and the surrounds on these windows, where the other brushes would be too thick, have too much paint in them to work with. You have to dip in quite regularly, but you do get some nice lines with this. Putting in the legs on these chairs. There's a lot more chairs than this in the photograph, but just giving an impression. A few chairs. Yeah, I think that's just enough detail on those, so you know that what you're looking at is chairs. Using a mop brush now, Tintorella. Size 9. Now I'm actually wiping some paint off of the palette there because I want to use quite a light colour. Jaune Bouillon with just a little bit of that grey mixture, just to dirty it up a little bit. I'm going to be putting in the shadows of these buildings. Using a fairly light mixture there on that distant one. Pretty much uniform wash on there. Now with this one, I want some of that deep blue sky reflecting off of the top part of these walls. So we're going in with cobalt blue, French ultramarine. Gives a real nice blues there. And then going to mix that with the other colours and bring the wall down with a variety of colours. This is the shade side with the sunlight bouncing off of the buildings opposite. So you've got all sorts of colours. Get it much lighter towards the bottom of the wall. You see I'm not fussing. It's working quite quickly. Already had an idea in my mind of what colours I was going to use before I put the brush to the paper, which is always a good idea. Now this is alizarin crimson, very strong colour, with cobalt blue, really strong mixture. I really only want to be going over this area once. Colouring all these figures there with it. Looks a bit strong, a bit blue initially, but it when it dries, it will look fine and very effective as deep shadow coming off these buildings. And bits like this, I'm always glad I've done a pencil drawing because I just have to think about filling in the areas and not about the shapes. I'll just go with what I've drawn. Concentrate on getting a nice strong wash in one go. Just got to brush with a little bit of clean water on there just to merge that into the pavement, and then putting a few little marks here and there, just marks on the pavement, and then at the same time going into the cafe where the chairs are, putting in some of the shadows there from the chairs. Just very lightly put somebody walking into the cafe there as well. You can see it's really starting to take shape now. Cadmium yellow, just touching that there, which is could be a light or something. Just takes the eye into that part of the painting. Now back with the dagger brush, some light grey just to finish off that shadow area from the right hand canopy. Looking at where it needs a little touch of grey here and there. A lot to think about with this painting as I go along. Try not to over elaborate these. I'm trying not to over elaborate the balconies. I know they will look like balconies. It's difficult not to start putting in every balustrade. Wouldn't look right. All the painting's got to look like it was painted by the same painter. And then just add into the windows at the front there, putting in a bit more deep shadow to the top parts of the window. Different intensities to shadows in certain areas. You can see as it's drying out, that shadow area there, it does look like there's a large window and a door at the back there. Now you can see what's happened with those shady areas under the awnings being so dark. It's really made them stand out and really added to the charm of this scene. Well, everything's quite kind of loose. It makes everything look real in my mind. Now I'm just going around with a small brush, just putting some final marks on these stone balconies and and the front wall, just where I think it needs just a little bit more emphasis to make it look like what it's meant to be. Just adding to these figures, putting heads on them, just having a look round. Probably wish I hadn't done such a big dress on the lady in red. It looks more like she's wearing a ball gown, but there you go. She's in the shade. Maybe she is going to a ball. Carefully removing this masking tape, pulling it away from the painting so I don't tear the paper. And there's the finished painting. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you can have a go at it. Just copy the stages that I do. Probably about three washes maximum. And hope you have fun doing it. See you again next time. Bye bye.